Yo, what's up, guys? So, to keep up with our Talking Spooks October horror movie reviews, I've been checking out all these Netflix top 10 horror movies lists that are coming up on Twitter, online, everywhere. And there's one movie I saw that kept on popping up on these: The Invitation. Now, is this just another B horror movie? Or did we stumble upon the pinnacle of Netflix horror? Let's talk about it. I'm Mookie Castro, and this is Talking Shots.
Sword sheath, it's the return of the blade and slice shade, getting paid until my silhouette fades. A mercenary, spits a levy versus scary sage, doing girly.
So what's this movie about? The Invitation is the story of our main character, who I'll leave nameless for the sake of not putting in any spoilers, who is invited to a dinner party with his girlfriend. Now, what's the scary part about this movie? The dinner party is hosted by his ex-wife with her new husband, who recently they had gotten married, and this is the first time that the main character and the ex-wife actually talked to each other in over 2 years since the divorce. So as the movie progresses, you as a viewer start realizing that everything is kind of weird, and it almost seems as if the ex-wife and her new husband are either on some type of drugs or are in a cult or something. Now, as the plot advances, you start getting introduced into different aspects of the house, and you start experiencing some of the traumas that the main character experienced. You end up finding out why the main character and the ex-wife got divorced. And you end up finding out why everyone is acting so casual about a situation that should be a lot more awkward than it's actually perceived to be. Our main character is traumatized from these past things that have happened to him. He's very suspicious of everything that's going on around him, and you could tell that he's still very uncomfortable, not only around the husband, not only around the ex-wife, and not only around the house, but also around these random house guests that get invited that are friends of the husband. It leads you into the situation where you're really left questioning, can I trust the main character? Are his suspicions actually valid? Or is he really just tripping? Like, is he really just making big deals out of nothing? And in a lot of scenes in the movie, you realize he might be. Now, this is one thing I will say about The Invitation. It is very well directed and has a very good sense of cinematography throughout. The use of lighting within the film is really important, and it's really interesting in the way that they do it. There's a lot of reds and beiges used within different scenes in the home that create this very warm and inviting feeling. Invitation. Very warm and inviting feeling, which makes you feel almost cozy at times. But then it's very much contrasted by the dimly lit rooms or the rooms that are not lit at all. So that sense of darkness and that sense of uncertainty really becomes balanced with the warmness. So you're kind of like, oh cool, this is very nice, you know, like I feel like I'm a guest in this dinner party. And then in other aspects, you're like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Why do you have an entire hallway that is left in complete blackness? Also, with the way that they use a lot of these panning shots and a lot of these still shots within the film, it's very open to the floor plan of the house. So it lets your eyes wander and really creates a sense of grandioseness within the home. So you could really tell that this is like an upscale house in the hills in California, instead of just, you know, some rinky-dink one-story fucking apartment in fucking the middle of nowhere, you know? Another really interesting thing that they do, it's not really original, but I always like to see it, is the way that they use flashbacks and intertwine it with the exploration of the house. Let me explain. The main character in certain points walks through different rooms, and he knows the layout of the house since, you know, he used to fucking live there. So there's one in particular where he has a flashback about his son. He walks into his son's bedroom, and instead of seeing how the room is now, you see it exactly how it was when his son was, you know, living in that bedroom. So you see everything, and it creates this very good sense of nostalgia, with a lot of uses of blues and whites to make it still feel like a flashback. And you could tell that he's kind of just remembering this and holding these memories dear. And then at one point, the main character blinks, and you see that the son's bedroom has now been turned into an office filled with a lot of these weird little trinkets, and it's very dry and barren. So a lot of the emotional value that the room used to have is now completely gone and just used as a workplace. Interesting to note too, the music doesn't play a huge part within the film. They kind of use like the same eerie loop throughout, and it kind of becomes a little bit boring, but it's important because they usually play it whenever they're trying to get you to focus on something that either plays an important part later in the film or a detail that just should be noted. So when you see it in the flashbacks, you're like, ah, now I see why they focused on this random wet bar for like 10 minutes. Another thing that I actually loved about the film, it has one of the best supporting casts I've ever seen within a horror movie. Typically horror movies, as a big trope, they kind of leave their supporting cast or the background characters very dry and bare bones, so when they die you don't give a fuck. But this cast plays so many different roles. Like, let me go into detail. A lot of the characters within the film and supporting cast end up being mutual friends of both the main character and the ex-wife. So they have to play a lot of different, they have to put on a lot of different hats. So at one point you see a lot of them being supportive friend to the main character when he's acting like a fucking weirdo. They're also trying to be, good party guests because they're trying to not let things get awkward. They're also trying to be level-headed because they have to realize when stuff is getting weird. And they also have to be, just supportive in general, not just, sympathetic towards the main character, but supportive of the ex-wife's decision in her happiness and the way that she's moving on from the past relationships and the past traumas. And what I love about it too is that each of the characters becomes super memorable and you actually end up remembering them by name. That's how impactful that they are. They don't just become dead friend number 2 within the credits. You actually remember, I think the dude's name is Cho, the Korean American guy who's late to the party. You remember his girlfriend. You remember the gay couple who both have completely different characteristics. Because it's really interesting. Whenever I see like LGBTQ characters used in a film, a lot of times they just end up being, sassy gay guy number 1, which is just so boring and such a waste of, a good character archetype. Now, here come my criticisms of the film. One thing I didn't like is the main character's performance so much. He's stoic throughout most of the film and he just bored the fuck out of me, honestly. Now I could understand that his nonchalantness is that the word? Nonchalantless. Okay. Now I can understand that he's supposed to be nonchalant for most of the film so that when he actually shows emotion, it has that much more of an impact. But when you spend about 90 minutes watching him just go, you start losing fucking interest. To be honest, a lot of it just felt predictable, and even when they try to mix you up, you could kind of see it coming. Now, here's another example. A lot of the movie uses a lot of common horror movie tropes, so they'll set it up like, he's gonna catch him doing something naughty, like killing somebody or doing something bad. And then they'll be like, nah, it's just the main character tripping. He's not really doing that. And after the first time, you're like, oh, okay, well, you got me, director, you got me. I thought he was gonna totally catch him murdering somebody or doing something shady. And then they do that like 5 more times throughout the film, and then you're just like, oh my fucking god, just do something already. Like, I get it, they're not fucking, I guess they are bad or they're not bad. Like, it ends up becoming just repetitive, and at least that's how I saw it. Now, I'm not saying the storyline isn't original. It's actually kind of cool because of the fact that it becomes a lot more realistic. I feel like if any of us were in that situation where we're at a party hosted by our ex and we actually decide to go, we would feel a lot of the emotions that the main character's feeling. You'd try to keep your cool. You'd feel kind of weird around the new person in their life. That you just try to, put on a fake face to try to, seem like you're okay with everything. And you also have a lot of your friends there, so you just want to try to be emotionally stable. But even when you're not comfortable, that it'd be kind of obvious. And that's one positive aspect about the film. It's very relatable until the second half of the movie where it just starts going off the fucking rails with what you're assuming. And that's a cool thing, to always be able to put yourself into the main character's shoes and to feel that a lot of his actions are justifiable because you would do the same. But still, the story is very bland and in my opinion, just kind of one-dimensional. Besides the cool little cinematic effects that they do with the whole flashbacks and the house itself, it kind of felt a little bare bone. I felt they could have done a lot more with it. Now, is The Invitation a bad movie? Not at all. Actually, I think it's one of the more interesting, well-done horror movies that I've seen, but it's just not my cup of tea, to be honest. I found myself bored a lot throughout the movie, found myself checking my phone, found myself pausing just to see how much time is left within the film. And the movie really doesn't even crescendo until the final I guess like 10 minutes of the film where everything just kind of comes together and then your suspicions either get proven or disproven. I'm gonna leave it up to you to watch the movie. Overall, I wouldn't even really call it a horror movie. It's more like a psychological thriller. But it's interesting in certain aspects. Some of the stuff is cool. There's certain scenes that become very memorable. Like they end up playing like a Never Have I Ever type game, and the ex-wife just starts making out with one of the friends, and you're like, yo, what's going on? Yeah, I guess. So here are my final thoughts. The Invitation, well-directed film, well-shot film, with a really good cast, but there's just some missteps that I couldn't get over that just made the film not exciting to me. Would I say overall, if I was an overall non-biased film critic, I would say it's a better movie than Terrifier, but I had way more fun watching Terrifier than I did having watched The Invitation. The Invitation, for a lot of people, could be a really cool film. I read reviews from other critics online, and they loved it. They said it was very refreshing, and it's very new, and a good addition to the horror movie genre. To me, it just felt like, hey, we're going to play it safe and just try to trick you with what you're used to seeing, and then tell you that it's not really that, I guess. Overall, would I recommend it? I would say yeah, especially if you're looking for something interesting, something a little bit different out of the norm that's more psychological than anything, and something that just kind of leaves you guessing. But overall, did I like the film? Not really. Would I watch it again? Only to show somebody if they're really about it. Like if I'm on a date with a girl and she's like, Wilkie, let's watch The Invitation. I'll be like, oh, I guess, whatever. I'll probably just be playing like Flappy Bird on my phone or some shit, which I still do have on my phone.
I need you.
So what do you guys think? Have you guys seen The Invitation and think I'm just fucking full of shit as always? Did you guys actually like the movie and thought it was really interesting, it was actually refreshing, and it's a lot more captivating than I'm saying it is? So comment below. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, the YouTubes, the Gram. We're on all that stuff. And yeah, make sure to show all your friends and recommend me stuff in the comments. I love seeing what you guys have to tell me. Or at least stuff that you guys want to see in the future, which we love to review. Again, this was Wilkie Castro, and this is Talking Shots.